Hi everyone, it is time for another webinar with your hosts. I'm Josie, I'm one of the fundraising team and I work with VSO volunteers.
And I'm Johnny and I work also in the fundraising team and I work with Progressio and Rally volunteers and some VSO ones. So hi to any of you guys watching.
Hello indeed. So we can start with a video perhaps?
Sure.
Or some ground rules, that might be a good place. Let's do that. So first of all, if anyone would like to write a question for us, please do. There will be up this side, there will be a bar where you can enter your questions in. So just write a question and there's a green button that you need to just click. If anyone sees a question that they really like the look of, just press the +1 by that question and that will upvote that, so then we will make sure that as we all know that that's a priority question, so we'll be sure to answer that one.
Cool. And yeah, just a quick kind of introduction, I guess, into what we'll be talking about. So mostly this is just about, I mean, depending where you're at in your fundraising, some of you might be at the beginning of it, some of you might be kind of halfway through or maybe approaching the end of it. We're just going to share some of our best kind of ideas, some of the ideas that are our favorites and that we know work for a variety of different volunteers. And yeah, hopefully that will give you maybe a bit of inspiration if you're kind of needing an extra idea. And then we'll also go through a few kind of FAQs at the end. Cool.
And we've both done loads of fundraising before. So not only will we be talking about favorite ideas that we like doing sort of, you know, in ICS fundraising, but we've done loads of ideas before that, you know, of all sorts of different types. So, you know, if you have any questions about any of the activities that we're talking about, please do a follow-up question in the question bar at the side.
Cool.
Cool.
Should we start?
Let's start the video. Okay. Okie dokie, 1 minute while we do some complicated technical stuff. Okay. Here we go, an A to Z for you. Okay, so we're back. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. It was just through quite fast, but there's loads of really good ideas in there. If you had a keen eye, you might also have noticed me as one of the fundraisers in there when I did my ICS fundraising. So that might be an idea I'd quite like to talk about, but yeah.
Sure. And just really quickly, I'm just going to double check that the Q&A version is working. Okay, awesome. So if it wasn't working before, it will be now. So you should, on the right-hand side of your screen, if you've got any questions, just type it in, and yeah, we'll get back to them. If you don't have, if you know you think of some questions later on, just drop us an email or whoever's your fundraising support officer.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to help you out.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So we're just going to go through a couple of our kind of favorite ideas. We'll do it quite quickly, just to give you a bit of an idea of that you can get involved with to get to your target. So I'm going to say probably my favourite idea is doing the raffle. So if I've spoken to you on the phone, there's a good chance I would have mentioned that to you. But I mean, there's a few reasons why I think it's great. One, it doesn't take too much organising once you've got the basics out of the way. And two, once you've kind of got it done, it's quite a good way of chipping away at your target over, say, a couple of weeks or over a month. So I guess there are two things to think about first of all with the raffle. And the first is obviously getting prizes, and the second is working out where you're going to sell the actual tickets for them. So in terms of prizes, I would say the first thing might sound obvious, but get in touch with your friends and family. So there might be a good chance that you know someone, say, who was given a present that they don't want anymore and they haven't, given back to the shop, and they'd be willing to let you have that. Otherwise, it might be that you know someone, say, who works somewhere and they'd be willing to put in, kind of a favour to ask their manager if they can get you something. So it could be, someone who works in a gym or a cafe or potentially a health and beauty place or a hairdresser's, and they'd be willing to kind of get you a voucher or a product or something like that. So always ask kind of your immediate network. That's what I'd say first of all. Past that, I think what's worth doing is just getting a basic draft of an email and sending that to as many local businesses and companies as you can. So all kinds of shops. So it could be the big ones, things like Nando's, Pizza Express, but also definitely don't miss out on the smaller shops. So you'll obviously have some local businesses and they're definitely worth asking. And you can always say that it's good advertising for them as well. Just quickly then, so once you've hopefully got a couple of prizes, a quick thing to note is that if you're asking for raffle prizes, you're going to have to deal with a lot of people potentially saying no, but that's really normal and it's just about being persistent, and that's probably the case with most fundraising ideas. If you ask enough people, there's a really good chance you're going to get something.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point actually. Like generally with fundraising, it can really be hard. So I don't want to sort of make light of the fact that if you're consistently being told no, that won't sort of make you feel unhappy about it. But it is something that actually it's quite a good thing to be aware of and to expect. And then you might hopefully fingers crossed be pleasantly surprised when you don't get no. You might get a no yes. And that is even if you try like 30 shops for a raffle prize and then at the end of that you come away with 5 prizes, that's still really good. And even though hearing 25 no's might feel bad, like having 5 prizes makes a raffle very, very worthwhile. So yeah, definitely agree with that. Great idea, 100%.
And yeah, just a quick one. So once you've got a prize, hopefully, I mean, the great thing is you can kind of sell it. It doesn't have to be a one-off event. You can sell them to friends and family. If anyone who works in an office, they're a great place to sell them, just because we work in an office and there's always someone selling raffle tickets. And if the prizes are good, people will be quite happy to spend £1, £2, or if they're good, like up to £5.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of like setting the price a bit higher. Don't think that you have to sell them for 50p for sure. And yeah, I'd say just try and find some different networks. Might be you don't know anyone who works in an office, and that's fine. I guess what I'd say then is to try and find other ways of reaching a wider network. So it might be at a car boot sale, potentially you could sell raffle tickets at the same time, or it might be someone who goes to a local sports club, that works really well. You might know someone who goes to a local golf club or football club. And yeah, so I think it's all about just getting out there then and starting to sell them bit by bit. But Josie's got her favourite idea.
So my one is going to be a bit of a wide-ranging one, but anything food related. Now this is without question my favourite fundraiser because it ticks every box. So you're giving people something in return for donation, which we think is so important. Same as the raffle prizes, you are giving people an opportunity to taste some delicious food. A lot of people theme their food-based fundraising around their placement. So if you are going to, say, Cambodia, you make Cambodian dinner or whatever for your friends, and that's a really nice way to involve people in your placement. And it's also a great way to learn a bit about the culture that you're going to be experiencing. So really good idea to link up your fundraising generally with your placement, but specifically with the food. That can be a really fun way of adding it all together. And the good thing about food-based fundraising is that there's so many different things you can try, within that. So it could be as big as doing a huge gala dinner for, 40, 50 people, or it could be as small as having your friends over for tea and coffee. So don't worry if you feel a little bit daunted by the idea of doing something big. You can still do something like a little cake sale. You know, we have them similarly to raffles. We have those in the office all the time, and we will never stop buying cake because they are winners, the bakers here. So it's also really good to think about where you're going to hold it. So as I mentioned, an office is a really good place. Don't overlook organising like a coffee morning, something at your own house. The benefit of that means that you're not going to have to pay for a venue or even find a venue in the first place. So it's always worth considering what you can organise just in your own house. You can also think about doing like curry night, for example, at a local curry house. A lot of volunteers do that. And doing pubs and restaurants, talking to them, talking to different organisations in the local community about organising with them too.
Sure, yeah, and 100% backing up. Use food if you're going to get to your target. It's a great way, as Josie said, to give something back to people as well. And people are really happy. Again, they're not going to be paying, you know, tens of pounds each time, but you'll be chipping away. Not every event has to be earning hundreds of pounds. Yeah. If you're getting, you know, £40 here, £50 there, that's still, you know, over the weeks that's building up. Just a couple more quick ideas and then we'll start answering a few questions that we've kind of been sent in. So I guess my other favourite idea that I'd say is to try and get competitive with your fundraising, or at least bring out other people's competitiveness. So that's why I'd always say to try and do some kind of tournament-based thing. It doesn't have to be sports related, so if you're not sports related, that's not a problem. But whether it's a football tournament, maybe a five-a-side, or it could be a karaoke event or something, and it could even be something like a poker night. That's always a really good way of just getting some people involved. And if you're, you know, if you're again providing something, some entertainment and some competitiveness, I think that people are always happy to pay for something. And again, one of the best things about that is if you can do a similar thing to the raffle, or at least follow the similar process and try and find a prize. That can be a really great way of kind of incentivizing people so that people are paying to take part in your competition, but they're also, you know, they've got the incentive of potentially winning something. So whether that's a bottle of, you know, drink, or whether that's, you know, vouchers to somewhere, try and get a prize always, just to add that extra little bit incentive.
Absolutely. So one of the things I'd like to talk about in terms of a really good idea to try, particularly around this time of year, is trying to have a bit of a clear out and getting rid of your stuff, either selling on eBay or particularly at the moment doing a car boot sale. So that is at the moment really popular. I have spoken to so many volunteers who have loads of car boot sales near them. So it's a good thing to do because not only are you sort of engaging with the local community, but you're also going to be selling stuff. So, you know, making sure you will definitely raise some money from that, and also chatting to people about what you're doing. So a lot of people I know who've done car boot sales end up talking to people about what they're selling and why they're selling it. You know, they might have an ICS poster up as well. So it's actually a really good idea because it means you end up talking to people. It's not just your friends and family that you're asking. And even if you don't have anything spare, even if you comb your shelves and you've got absolutely nothing to give away, that's fine. You can ask your friends and family, and I'm sure they will have some bits as well. You can even offer to help them do a bit of a clear out themselves, and then take whatever they don't want for a car boot sale. But if for whatever reason, if there are no car boot sales around you, or if that's not an option, you can still sell things on eBay or other sort of selling based websites as well.
Sure. Cool. Just a quick reminder, if you do have any questions, just drop one on the side and we'll be happy to answer it. But for now, we'll just answer a few kind of questions that we've been sent in ourselves, like over the last couple of weeks, and that's from volunteers who will be probably going through a similar experience to you. Mm-hmm. So one of the questions that we've been sent in is it possible to get a deadline extension? Do you want to say that?
Yeah. Sure. Cool. So we judge deadline extensions on a number of factors. So that includes how much work and commitment someone has already put in, how much they have planned, and how willing and able they are to add more things to those plans, and how receptive they are to taking more activities on, and also how much they've already raised. So for example, if a volunteer hasn't shown us that they are committed and able to take on more activities and want to do that, then our concern would be about whether that volunteer was committed to the program, and also if that was a big enough if that was more about whether the program was the right stage for them at that time. So we would want to discuss with you, if that was your situation, what the best step was going forward. Now, as I say, we are open to deadline extensions, but these happen in really serious extenuating circumstances. So you cannot allow yourself a deadline extension. You do need to talk to your fundraising support officer, whether that's me or Johnny or one of the rest of our team. It is something that we need to approve first. So that's really important to mention.
And yeah, just another quick one, I guess, is what I'd really emphasize is just keep in contact with us up to the deadlines as well. The worst thing you can do, absolutely the worst thing you can do, is get to the deadline and then only then drop us an email and say, I'm struggling a bit, I don't think I'm going to hit it, because that's, you've given us no warning about that. If you are thinking you're struggling at the moment, maybe with ideas or maybe just with your time, whatever it may be, get in touch with us. We're there to support you, and we'll know things that will work for you most likely, because we've worked with a lot of other volunteers with very busy schedules and who have faced lots of different challenges in their fundraising. But the most important thing to take away is if you don't get in touch with us and let us know, there's no way for us to know that you are still committed. So that's the number one thing to take away, I guess, first of all.
And also that we want to fight your corner, we want to support you, and we also want to be able to say, no, this volunteer is trying really hard, they just need a bit of extra time. But if you've not told us that, then there's no way we can tell, the organisation, whether you're with BSI or Rally or one of the other organisations, we can't tell them that you are working hard. So that puts us in a situation where we can't defend you. So help us to help you, essentially, and then we will definitely be able to get you to your target.
Sure. And one other one we got sent in was, can I use my own money to boost my fundraising? So, I mean, this is quite a kind of, we get asked it every now and then. What I would say is that if you want to give a small donation to your fundraising, you're more than welcome to. So like whether that's a token amount, just so that you're kind of feeling like you're contributing as well, apart from all of the time and energy you're putting in. So if that's, say, I don't know, £20, £50, that's an absolute maximum, I'd say. The reason for that is because the fundraising is obviously really important about getting to your target and getting the funds raised, but it's not simply about the money. As we mentioned earlier, it's also about showing your commitment, and just simply paying in money yourself. One, it's not showing that you're not doing anything to actively get the funds raised. Two, you're not spreading awareness about ICS, which is obviously what we want you to do. We want you to be kind of really inspiring other people around you to do that. And three, it's not fair on some other volunteers, because a lot of people aren't going to be in the situation where they can just top up their fundraising. And it really is about trying to show that you are committed and that you are taking through the same kind of steps as everyone else. So it is a really important part of that.
So we see fundraising as this really inclusive process that everyone goes through, and for that reason it's not fair for one person to be able to pay it off and another person not to be able to. And it's also, it unites everyone. Everyone has to fundraise, so that means you guys can share ideas and share experiences when you're out on placement too. So that's really important as well.
Sure. And we've got one more question, I think, which is, okay, so this is quite relevant for my groups at the moment, if I'm a fundraising support officer. So this one is the 50% deadline important? I guess we've probably got two things to say about this. So, I mean, the first one is obviously, yes, it is very important, but there's a couple of reasons for that. So for us, it's a really important kind of tool, like a measure for us to see how your progress is coming along. So as we mentioned earlier, to see what you've been up to in the last little while, what your contact's been like with us, that's a really another really important thing that we judge. It's not simply about, are you exactly at the 50% mark? It is slightly more, there are more factors involved in it. It's also about us seeing that you are still committed and you are still trying new ideas. But there's another reason as well that's really important.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of reaching the 50% deadline, it's also really important for you guys. So the 50% deadline will roughly be at the 50% point. It won't, more or less, you know, depending on when you've been selected. But if you can sort of see in terms of where your progress is, if you're roughly at 50% by the 50% deadline, then you can sort of think to yourself, right, well, I've got to do roughly about the same amount again. So it's a really useful tool. The feedback that we've had from volunteers is that they really appreciated the 50% deadline, because it sort of gave them a staggered point, which wasn't as strict and wasn't as stressful, but it helped them to think, okay, well, I'm at the 50% deadline now, I'm not quite at the 50% point, or maybe I'm just over the 50% point, but what else do I need to do? Do I need to take on loads more activities or just a few? Do I need to rethink the strategy I've been doing so far? Like, say if a particular idea worked really well, should I just do that again? So it's really a good point for you to sort of reflect on your progress. So it is very important for those reasons, but also, just to mention, the 50% deadline is strict, but it's not as strict as the final deadline. So that is the one you really do need to stick to. And if you're struggling and you're not sure about the final deadline, as we've mentioned, that's what you really need to get in touch with us about.
And yeah, I guess just one final, I've said it probably a couple of times now already, but as much as anything, please get in touch with us before that point. If you are thinking you might, you know, not be quite at that, or you're a bit worried about your progress, that's okay. You know, we can deal with that, and we can make steps in order to get you to progress further in the next few weeks. But it is really important you get in touch with us. You've got one thing to remember is that we'll probably each have around 200 volunteers that we'll be supporting at any one time. So we'd love to give you kind of individual support like every week, as much as I'm sure you would love that as well. But it's going to be impossible to do that. So if you are struggling, or even if things are going really well, that is also
it's
really
lovely
nice
to get those emails. I got an email today which made me really happy, which was just someone saying, I'm doing fantastically, and that's brilliant too. You know, if you want to let us know that, that's great. And in terms of our capacity, we do have a lot of volunteers, but I mean, I suppose that's really important to say, is we prioritise volunteers who are getting in touch with us. So if you're struggling and you get in touch with us, we will make sure to get back to you. But as we've got such a lot of volunteers that we're working with, we're not going to be able to chase every single person up. So it really is your responsibility to get in touch with us. And that's one of the commitments you've made by taking on the ICS programme, is that you agree to fundraise and you agree to take responsibility for your fundraising.
Cool. So, I mean, we were going to answer any questions that you had, but it looks like there might be a couple of you maybe have some questions in your mind that you're going to ask later on.
Of course.
In which case, that is absolutely fine.
We're here for you when you need us.
Generally 9 to 5.
9 to 5. That's when you'll have to need us. Not before.
But yeah, so I would say if you do have any questions that come up, or if you're watching this potentially later and you've seen something, you've heard something which you're unsure about, or you'd like to know a bit more about, just get in touch with one of us.
Please do.
And yeah, we'll be able to help you out.
Or if you don't have our details to hand, if you go on the website and find the ICS fundraising inbox, or if one of us is not your fundraising support officer, please do send the general ICS fundraising email address an email, and one of us will get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, otherwise, thanks for watching, guys.
Have a lovely evening.
Have a nice night.
Bye.
Yeah.